Very much, Paras, for joining us today on ET Now. Indeed, a pleasure to have you. Now, India's creator economy, which is buoyed by Meta platforms, has emerged strongly across the world and is all set to be one of the largest bases in the world. How does Meta then plan to further aid the growth of these platforms and take us through the untapped potential and plans that you have for the Indian market?
First, I'll give you a macro picture. If you were to look India as a market from a demand point of view, and I will take few indicators as indicators for demand. The internet penetration, there's still far more headroom to grow compared to many of the other developed nations and also similar nations. So which means that there is a far more growth of internet penetration possible. Second is the consumption of video on internet. We are still lower than Indonesia, USA, China, which means that there is still more video content consumption. There's a demand which is there, which is untapped. If you look at from a supply point of view, and if you look at from a creator point of view, if you look at the percentage of creators versus the percentage of the internet penetration, we are still lower than some of the other markets, which means that while being one of the largest creator market, we have a huge headroom in terms of the overall growth of the creator ecosystem. Now let's look at some of the specific nuances of the India market. What we have seen in last 3 years, more than I would say previous 10 years, is that the ability to create content and the ability to reach a large audience has become far more accessible and easier with platforms like Instagram and with formats like Reels. And what we have seen is that the largest both amount and the pace of this growth is coming from tier 2 and tier 3 towns. And if I were to give you few numbers, if you were to look at the top 100 IG business accounts with a following of 1 million to 5 million, 40% are from tier 2 to tier 3 towns. If you look at the number of the program that we run, which is about creator education enablement, born on Instagram, which currently has 750,000 registered on that and who get educated in the creator journey in 6 different languages. More than 60% are coming from tier 2 to tier 3 towns. So there is a still huge potential that we see coming from smaller towns and creators who are coming from different languages and creators who are creating content of micro interest or micro culture. Now, what are we doing it? We look at our jobs with the creator ecosystem, I would say 6-fold. First is, how do we look at enabling the creation in simpler and easier ways so that more and more people are able to create without needing access to very developed devices or infrastructure, and which comes in the form of different features that we continue to launch and iterate on and improve on and bring in. If I would just take Instagram per se, all the features and our strategy for Instagram, which is driven by who is it for, and our primary audience is Gen Z. And if you look at how they are engaging, connecting, communicating, and creating, we develop features based on that.
Right. So, Paras, you raised a very, very pertinent point about creator safety and well-being of your creators for your platform. But first, let's go into the specifics of rural versus urban and geographies that are doing well. And what's the kind of content that's really doing well on Meta's platforms? We'd all want to know.
When we go into the language or regional markets, there are creators over there who have an extremely engaged audience for that community and for that particular geographical region, which therefore becomes extremely important for any brand who's looking in that, and they would have much higher output per unit of their creative content if someone wants to reach out to that audience than a national creator would have. The second thing, if I were to look at the growth of creator ecosystem in last couple of years, and if we look at the tier 1 versus tier 2 and tier 3, the absolute number of creators which are coming from tier 2 and especially tier 3, in fact, are as high in absolute numbers as in tier 1 when we talk about creators who have more than 500,000 following. So that gives you an idea about that, where the creator ecosystem is coming from. The second question, I think that the point that you have was what kind of a content is currently working. So there are few parts of it. First of all, as you rightly mentioned, each one of our feed is personalized based on our interests. What we have seen, Sumita, in last couple of years, overall, earlier it used to be that large part of pop culture used to be centered around what we call few macro culture movements. That most of the things would be centered around those three, four, five genres or topics or things. That has changed dramatically. We now see an emergence of multiple microculture movements or interest groups. And I think that's coming from the simple and single most important because the creators were coming from tier two, tier three towns, and the pride that they have in their local culture and their local nuances and their local creation, that is now bringing not only the audience from those markets, but also the pan-India audience.
Right. So staying with actually creator safety, with some platforms, there have been issues related to child safety in particular. And Meta has spoken previously about actively engaging with child's rights activists. So how far have those engagements moved? And what more is Meta doing to protect the interests of its creators, especially the ones that are underage?
We enable for them that they can employ features like taking a break. So if they're using and spending time, they can take a break from that. We have things again for them that they can use multiple features where they can hide words. Even now they can hide emojis that they don't want to see, and if it's coming into their feed. And then the third thing is for the parents also. And if an account is open, we have that as well, where now parents can also get an idea about the amount of time their kids are spending. They also get an idea, notification about if the kids have raised a report about some other account. So those are done at the three different levels. Now, the fourth level is engaging with different bodies and communities and raising awareness about such things from a user point of view. We have done digital suraksha. We hold multiple such, I would say, engagements with people from the industry to talk about this issue and share with each other. Now, when we talk about from a creator point of view, many of those, the users are also creators. So many of what I mentioned also therefore applies them if they are being a creator. But over and above that, for creators to feel safe, there are two parts of it. One is safety of their account, which means that if they're open an account, that no one is, we increase multiple barriers so that the chances of the account being hacked or taken by someone else are reduced. And they're done through multiple ways. There's a two-factor authentication. We continue to educate them how to use passwords, what are things that they can do, how to protect themselves from social engineering and phishing.
All right. So Meta has been at the forefront of leading tech revolutions, innovations, etc. But do you think social platforms, and how do you think social platforms could leverage AI for better social media experience? And how is really Meta approaching the integration of AI with its services and products?
There are four different pillars around it. The first is around the developer ecosystem, people who are using the foundational technologies to build many more new things on AI. And as you would know, that we have launched our large language model, Llama and Llama 2, which is an open source network for developers. And we believe in that the more the tools that we can give to the developer community, the more iterations and more innovation can come. The second, again, for the developer community is we have PyTorch. PyTorch is a deep learning framework which increases the pace from prototyping to the actual production. Again, it's a developer-based thing. So these are our initiatives at a large-scale level initiatives to help the developer ecosystem on AI. Then let's look at the user experience part of AI. The user experience part of AI is what you and I and those billions of people see. And that's where we deploy AI so the users can have the most intuitive experience and recommendations coming to them based on our deployment of AI.
All right. So across your family of apps, Reels clearly is a standout winner. Can you give us some numbers on Reels growth and how they're really doing?
Sumita, that's an extremely important point. I'm glad that you touched that because this young user or Gen Z, as we all call, is our visualization of the audience that we build each and every feature for Instagram. That's our driving force, because this is the audience who have grown only with internet, not seeing the life without it. This is the audience which connect, communicate, and create in a manner which is so very different from what was there in the past. So whether it's, to your point, whether it's a audio note, whether it's a written note, whether it's a story, whether it's connecting with super fans through IG broadcast channel, or whether it's a longer create expression through reels, all of these features and everything that we build is keeping this Gen Z audience as a driving force.
No, I get that absolutely. And getting now a brand's perspective here, what are some of the top Instagram features that brands are betting on now? Is it like, are more and more brands betting on IG broadcast, reels, or posts?
Yeah, so I think the reels is definitely the prime platform, and which brands are currently employing and using to reach this very vast audience. And they're using it through engaging and working with the creators. Because as per one of the ASCII surveys, it says that a creator-led communication has led to around 90% people making a purchase decision. And creators, the Reels is their home for creators, and that's what the brands are leveraging on. As in on, then more and more surfaces and opportunities of monetizing those surfaces open up, I'm sure the brands will be there. But I think right now, this is where the most momentum is, and still a lot of untapped potential for brands to come and embrace the power that this platform has, and then the power that the creators bring on this platform for communicating their messages.
All right, so Reels being the clear winner. But Paras, when we speak of content creators and influencers, we cannot not speak about finfluencers, which have gained the wrath of financial regulators. And you also do have some financial influencers on your platform. So how are you really addressing that problem from two perspectives? A, from a creator perspective, and from a content moderation perspective. Because remember, there are millions of retail investors who are at the risk of getting impacted.
See, we work extremely closely with Advertising Standard Council of India. They are our key partners. We work with them on all the guidance that we get from Department of Consumer Affairs, and we work very closely with them. And therefore, we employ all the best practices and put guidance for our creators at the large ecosystem. And we have various tools on our platform itself where the creators are obliged and they're asked to declare their paid partnership. We also work with brands to educate them that if they're working with creators, they should work and use the paid partnership tag, because these are the guidelines which are mandated. And any creator education program that we do, we have ASCII's presence over there. When ASCII does anything that we are present over there and using this opportunity to together communicate and build this message. The reason why creators have become such a strong force is because more and more people trust them as per various industry surveys and research. And the trust, to keep that trust going and to further build on it, is what our aim is to tell creators for them to follow all the prescribed policies and guidelines which different government bodies come up with.
All right then. Lastly, Paras, Meta has done very well in providing value to businesses and communities. But what is really next for Meta India to power India's techade via content creation or SMBs?
So I think we are already doing it, and the vision or the charter that I earlier mentioned at the beginning of our conversation is already wheels in motion, which is about how do we build the ecosystem, which is how do we enable more and more creators to get educated on the right manner and with the right kind of inputs. So they get aware about it right from the journey. B, how do we create different mechanisms to guide them? So first is a platform where they can get educated. Second is the opportunities through which they can guide it. Third is that how do we ensure that we get them to connect with more people like them so they can share their success stories, get inspired from their idols. Fourth is how do we engage with them and get them to engage with brands so that they can get monetized. And then how do we ensure that they are protected and safe. And finally, as I was mentioning earlier, the the evolution and then the fast pace with different AI tools and technologies and features that we are rolling out and that we have announced, how that enables and empowers them for the next phase of their content creation.
All right then, Paras, so big plans ahead for Meta India. Indeed, a great note to end this conversation on. It's been a pleasure having you. Next time, I do hope we can do this in person.